All right, I'll call the meeting of the General Government and Finance Committee to order at 5:31. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all members present except for trustee Pieper. With that, we will move on to item 3, citizen input. Please come up to the podium, fill out one of the yellow slips, excuse me, if you'd like to speak, and hand it in to the clerk, please. And keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Sarah Larson, Butternut Road. Tonight, I just wanted to comment on the new business item B, the legal services RFP. And I recommend, I looked at the background and see that the staff had recommended continuing with our current provider for part of the service. And I do not agree with retaining our current legal counsel in the future. I think there's a level of complacency that has built up over the course of time. And things that come to mind is when we look at the Grosnick transaction and the fact that that was let lapse 6 months. And then we have a village member who lost $1,400 in their conditional use permit fee because of some backroom dealings on this to subvert that transaction. I don't know if our legal counsel was providing advice on that recent situation with the property across from the Aurora Medical. That should have never risen to that level with that property owner trying to figure out that septic situation. I see no sense of urgency and a continual focus on the wrong concerns. The amount of time and effort put in about the noise ordinance or let's see. I had a couple notes here, sorry. It just seems that he isn't watching the board and ensuring that you're adhering to what the ordinances are and taking a sense of urgency and priority over where is your true legal exposure. It isn't necessarily on noticing of whether there's going to be a quorum or a noise violation or that the police don't have the right equipment to monitor the noise level. I think he should be more concerned about whether open meeting laws are being followed correctly and whether there is a chance of litigation over something like that. I think the probability is much higher than over a noise violation. I think it just, we should not be looking at skimping on budgetary dollars in this regard. I think we're seeing you get what you pay for, and this legal representation is not doing it for the village. In that same vein, Tyler Munis contract is on the agenda tonight. And I think unless we can get some support dollars to start generating more meaningful reports that are user-friendly and easily digestible in response to questions, or just for the public to really see where the financial standing is, we need to go with some other software. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that wants to come up for public comment?
Point of order, could we check and make sure that the volume is on, the mute button's not on? Seems real.
Sometimes it's wherever that podium is makes a difference, because I'm
Oh.
like you too, I'm like, it's hard to hear.
It's just. Thank you very much. Because if we don't have the mics on properly.
Yeah, typically it's just the speakers in here and it does broadcast out just fine.
Oh, if I'm in the dome,
We
you
have
can
to
hear it.
too.
You're in the bell?
Yeah.
No, see, you're
Yell
not-
this way.
when the podium is like over there, they can actually hear it better. It's just very odd.
The acoustics in this room.
They're
are-
very strange,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know, I feel like it was eating into.
Okay. Enough jocularity. Melanie Smythe, N140W. It's blinking. Hello? Okay. All right. Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. So my first thing is a question, and it's somewhat to do with what Ms. Larson just said about the being able to read a simplified version or summary within Tyler Munis. I don't really know how to look for what the balance of the general fund is outside of what's been budgeted. So I don't know if it's a couple of lines, or if there's one place you can go to say, here are the savings, here's what's budgeted, and here's what's left over in the reserve. So if there's a way of showing that more easily, that would be helpful. And then I'd just like to tag on to something else that Ms. Larson said. I think we should look more closely at all of the offerings from the various legal services teams that provided bids on this, for not only the reasons that she mentioned, but I also think that there's this thing that's coming up on the village board meeting for the 4th of July activities. I read through that. Whoa. I read through that, and I was wondering why this wasn't on your agenda first so that you could work through it, because it looks like there's a lot of different options. The park and rec people sounds like they don't really want to be responsible for running the 4th of July festivities, which I can't say that I blame them, because my understanding is that part of the reason that the whole Celebrate Germantown thing kind of fell apart was that the legal paperwork was never followed through upon. Now, if I'm wrong, correct me, but it's my understanding that there was something that wasn't done that should have been done by the attorney's office. And then by the time it got to being something that was known, the last resort was to have the Park and Rec people take over the 4th of July festivities. They did a great job. It was very good. But reading through their options, there are many options. There's about 8 different variations of things. And I think it should have been something that came to this group before it went on to the village board, because you are governance, and this is a significant change. And it's not too soon to start looking for an organization to replace the Kiwanis, who did it for so many years. But I do think it's somewhat unfair to expect the Park and Rec people to continue on with it, since it wasn't really by their choosing. So those are my comments. Thanks.
All right, thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else wishes to come forward for public comment? Okay, if not, we will move on to item 4, consent agenda, which would be the minutes of November 18th, 2024.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
I will second that.
All right, we have motion to approve the minutes of November 18th, 2024. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to item 5. There is some unfinished business tonight, so we'll go on to item A, proposed purchasing policies and ordinance to amend municipal code to reflect revised policies. And for that, we'll turn to Administrator Krecklo to give us some more information.
All right, thank you. This is a request to update the expenditure authorizations that currently exist in the in village ordinance and in our purchasing policies and procedures. It also would formalize and I guess kind of establish the policies related to competitive procurement processes to make sure that as often as possible that village staff is is seeking multiple proposals and trying to get the best pricing possible. A few key points that I think we can make for the committee's consideration. One is that there are multiple controls and opportunities for committee and board oversight and input into the process of spending taxpayer dollars. The first and probably the most important of those is the budget process, where the village board establishes authorization amounts, both in terms of operating budgets and in capital budgets. And the department heads or the administrators are not allowed to exceed those budget thresholds without approval from the village board. And actually amending the budget is a process that requires a 3/4 vote of the village board. So there are controls in there. And then secondly, the reporting both of contracts and the contract report, which is something that's been added and improved upon. And I think you'll continue to see additional improvements to that as time goes on. And we're able to we're getting better at getting the data into Tyler Munis, so it's possible to improve the reporting. And then also the AP reports that come through, which are on every general government and finance report. Every AP run, every check, every expenditure that is made by village staff is reported in those AP check runs and included in your packets and also available to the public, via the website and those packets. So there are a number of other controls in place besides the approvals of contracts and specific purchases. One of the pieces of information that the committee asked for last month when this was under consideration was what other communities were doing. I was able to get that information from Mequon, Menominee Falls, Hartford, and West Bend. And there are each community does it a little bit differently. Mequon allows department heads authorizations up to $5,000. The finance director is allowed approvals under $10,000. The administrator is allowed approvals under $25,000. And then all of their approvals are done at the committee level. And I guess it's one of the ways that Mequon City Council tries to reduce the burden on their city council is all of those approvals are done at the committee level and do not go to the board.
So Steve, they don't go to the full board at all.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless they're called out.
Unless they're called out, yeah.
Something.
Yeah. The Village of Menominee Falls, a little bit simpler. They just have everything under $25,000 it can be approved by the administrator. Anything $25,000 and above has to go to the general government and finance and the village board. Hartford has two different thresholds, and one is for their utilities. And I'll just before I mention what those numbers are, and one of the kind of unique things about Hartford is in addition to their water and sewer utility, they operate an electrical utility. So that makes them a little bit unique. But they separate out, they have different thresholds for their utility. Anything for their utility under $150,000 can be approved by the administrator. Anything over $150,000 has to go through committee, the utility committee and common council. For non-utility expenditures, anything under $30,000 can be approved by the administrator. Anything $30,000 or over has to go to committee and the common council. West Bend separates out their contracts by construction and non-construction contracts. For non-construction contracts, anything under $5,000 is approved by a department head. Anything from $5,000 to $10,000 can be approved by the administrator. Anything above $10,000 has to go to city council. And then for construction, anything under $25,000 can be approved by the department head. Anything $25,000 and over has to go to they have a Board of Public Works, which is similar to our Public Works and Highway Committee. So those were the results of communities in the area that I was able to find.
So construction, basically capital
Correct.
type things.
Then it falls under state statute, and $25,000 is the limit under state statute.
Okay.
And did you include that chart in the?
No, this is something I pulled together on Friday and then finished up today.
Okay, I think I got it all. Notes. Terry, you
You go
got
ahead.
a question?
No, I was gonna make a comment, but you go ahead, you had the floor.
No, I'm done with questions, so go ahead.
I think in view of that and in thinking about this since our last session, I am in agreement with the proposal here. Namely because these things have to be in the budget to begin with, and the project has to go through committee. And if it is something that requires bids, we're going to have to always see that in committee anyway. So this is more for the smaller things without creating essentially more work for a lot more people. And I'm okay with this, and I'm going to support it after more thought since last month.
All right. Jan, do you have comments, questions?
Well, yes, I have a question. What is the reason behind increasing these amounts? Have we run into any problems funding any projects? It seems to me, I don't remember any real emergencies. I think we've kind of been down this road before where we tried to increase things and
Well, the last increase and the last time this was before GGF and the village board was about 7 years ago. And at that time, the board increased the limits. They had been $2,500 for the administrator, up to $7,500. It had been $500 for department heads, and that went up to $2,500. And then they created approvals for committees. I think what we're finding, and the reason for this coming forward, is that we're seeing price increases. And for example, things like, brake work or brake parts that need to be completed. This was I asked the department heads for some examples of things that maybe used to typically fall under $7,500 and now are over $7,500. And we recently had some repairs to brakes in one of our fire trucks, and that was over $7,500. And one of the things, quite bluntly, that this is geared towards is also getting more compliance with the policy. If you think about that case, that never came to committee. And it under what the current regulations are, it should have. But the staff made a decision, I think it was a right decision, that the brakes needed to be repaired and the truck put back into place rather than in the operation, rather than waiting several weeks for the next committee meeting to take place. So, those are the types of things where I think increasing the limitations is going to help us make sure that department heads and staff are complying with what those regulations are. And it will also help to improve the reporting and the information that you're able to get and the transparency into the financial system.
just to add on to that, I've been in several meetings where maybe I'm going to just give an example, and I don't remember exactly, but it might have been utility or something from the DPW where there was something that they had to make the expenditure and they were coming for approval after the fact. That has happened, and we understand that. I don't think they've ever been denied. So I know prices are higher, but I would like to, have a little bit better understanding of all the information that you gave to us about Mequon, Menominee Falls, West Bend, and Hartford, and kind of extrapolate it and maybe make something that makes really good sense for the village of Germantown. I'm not saying this proposal is way out of whack. I have nothing else to, measure it from. So I would like to measure it against
Yeah.
some other ones. Thank you.
Trustee Kaminsky?
Way out of whack is what it probably is now with inflation and how much costs have gone up since 2017. And if you listen to what our village administrator said, every community has higher approvals than we have right even on this new sheet that we're going to be looking at. They have 25,000, they have 30. I mean, that's what we just heard. So I don't know if we are hearing two different conversations here between you and I, but this is actually low compared to at least two of the ones that we just cited. This is low even when we revise it. I mean, I just, to me, this is a no-brainer. Let's just let government move smoothly. Steve sees every one of these bills that comes through anyway, and that's his job, and I have confidence in that. I just hate wasting time on something this basic.
2 points,
this point.
2 points of clarification, Steve. First off, that nothing can be approved above the budgeted amount, correct? Because if that would take a amendment by the village board in order to increase that budgeted amount.
Correct. And the core issue that we're trying to make sure that we address is that we want all of these things going into the system and getting approved in the system. And that's where the control on the budgetary authority comes through. Because if somebody enters something into the system, then if they exceed their budgetary authority, the system will not allow that to proceed. It'll send a message where they have to talk to the finance director. If departments make those expenditures and then come back after the fact and report it, those transactions take place out of those system, outside of the system, and those controls are not in place. So this is something that it actually strengthens the controls that are in place on financial transactions to increase the authority.
Okay. Second thing is, trustee Jan alluded to is emergency water breakage as an example. Those have been authorized prior to, and there are emergency authorizations that are in place as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that the emergency authorizations are still out there, that if there is, a water break is a great example, where work could be authorized, and on an emergency basis and then reported back. But what we're trying to do is reduce the number of emergencies, and things that are done on an emergency basis, and try to routinize things and include them as part of our regular processes.
Okay. Trustee Jan Miller.
I just want to make a comment that there are provisions for purchases in this data for over $25,000. However, the wording in here is a little, I want to clarify something. You're saying that all of these measures, these amounts are entered into Tyler Munis, and if something goes over that amount, it's got to stop. Is that correct, Finance Director?
Yeah, so if you look at the budget, there's general expenses.
Hit it again.
Yep, so there's a control, we call it the roll-up code, where if you look at, let's say let's say the clerk's office, for example, she has general supplies and expenses, which make up, say there's 10 lines. If the total actual is about to go over the budgeted amount, she'll get, or who's ever entering that invoice will get a notification saying, will exceed budget. And then we either have to amend the budget or perhaps look at how it's getting charged and where it's getting allocated to. But there is a stop within the system.
Well, does it get rejected? Does it have to go to you? What's the stopgap?
Yes, the system will not let them enter the invoice or the purchase order or the contract. It won't let them enter it. So there's no way for an invoice to be processed or a check to be cut.
It says that a requisition, I'm looking at page, I don't know what I'm on, 11 of 459, purchases $25,000 and over. Point two, a requisition, purchase order, or contract should be entered into Tyler Munis after committee approval has been received. Wouldn't it be must be entered?
I would prefer the language must. be
Yeah.
required.
Yeah, I think, and it's number two of all of those points. Because maybe you don't feel like doing it. That's not right. If we're gonna have a system and we've been fortunate to put resources toward Tyler Munis and we're trying to hone in on it. So they must be entered.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the finance director would agree with that change and, with that anything, one of the other things I saw is looking at some of these other communities is they do change that language to must for anything over $5,000, for example, and definitely we want as much as possible entered into the system at the earliest possible point. But I think that change to must is,
He must.
yeah, yeah, that's something that would be a good change and would strengthen the policy.
Could you answer one more question here? On the purchases less than 5,000, it says department heads may delegate this approval when necessary. Any delegation must be reported in advance when possible to the village administrator, finance director, or accounts payable. What does delegate mean? Delegate to what, whom? What do we,
I'm
give me
assuming
an
that's the
example.
supervisors, instead of Matt
Right.
doing it, one of the supervisors, like the water utility supervisor, could have authorized it.
Correct. For some of the larger departments, Public Works, Police and Fire, the department heads may delegate that or a portion of it, and that's something where departments, depending upon how they want to manage their departments and their thoughts on their, their direct reports, some may delegate more of that than others. Some department heads may want to see everything that comes through. But that's a conversation, and the reason we word it that way is I think that's a conversation I'd like them to have with Matt and with me before that decision is finalized.
I mean, could they delegate it to their administrator, their admin person?
I wouldn't approve that. No.
Okay. Thank you.
So if I recall, from the last meeting, it was just a meeting, motion to postpone, so we would need a motion to move forward with this yet.
Make a motion to approve the revised purchasing policy with the changes to the purchasing authorizations. As noted.
Right? I'll second. Any further discussion? This has to go through the village board. This is just a motion to push it to the village board.
Clarify with the changes to, what was that, trustee committee? Changes to,
Approving what was recommended, essentially.
okay, part of the discussion recommendations.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right, goes forward with a 2-1 vote in favor.
Right.
Thank you.
And may I make
Yeah.
a,
Go ahead.
just, would all those changes be made before it even moves forward?
I can change the language to add must to those 2 points.
I think there's 3. I could be wrong.
Well, I think the one below 5,000 wouldn't be a must because you wouldn't necessarily be doing a purchase order or requisition for something under $5,000.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to unfinished business, item B, Tyler Munis contract renewal.
I was able to get a final copy of the 2025 contract / invoice for Tyler Munis in 2025. I apologize for not getting it earlier. I just received it this afternoon. As I noted in the memo, we're projecting it to be around about $120,000 for 2025. Came in about $6,000 lower than that, at $114,000. This contract covers all of the aspects of Tyler Munis, including, the general ledger, utility billing, HR, payroll, and all of those functionalities. This then
This is
gets,
a 3-year?
this is just a single year.
Single year. Sure.
So going forward, we'll receive a new contract each year. The first contract was a 3-year contract, and then their standard policy is to do an annual renewal.
So
Mhm.
question, the contract date is December 30th of 2021. Are you talking about the original one or what?
I
are we
think I think that's their contract number. I'm not sure why that they have that as their contract number. If you look up in the top right for the date, it's 12/1/2024. I think
Okay.
that's their internal contract number.
talking? Are we getting any additional areas of expertise expanding? Anything other than what we already have?
No, we haven't purchased anything additional compared to what we purchased back in 2021.
And just a question, have they added, Tyler Munis have they added at all a CRM system? Just checking.
Not to the level of something the village would be interested in. They have a very basic one that probably wouldn't fit the needs of the village.
So Matthew, the total requested is for 120,000, is that right?
No,
Right.
so that memo was put together before I got
Oh,
the final
it
copy.
dropped a little bit. That's what I thought you said.
Correct. Correct.
Now I see it.
The total request is 114.
19065.
Yep.
Okay.
And another question, does this give you the support and training that you need for you and your staff?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Allocation would be the same, 50% general,
50% general,
25,
25.
25
Correct.
to water and sewer. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, committee?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to accept the Tyler Munis contract renewal for $114,190.65 for 2025.
Second.
All right, a motion, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item C, under unfinished business, American Rescue Plan.
Yep, so I just wanted to provide an update on the status of the ARPA funds. So as you may recall, all funds have to be obligated by the end of 2024, and there's about, what is it,
1,460.
Yep, $1,460 left to be allocated. My recommendation is just to add that on to the Axon body camera contract. So when we originally allocated those funds for that contract, the dollar amount was 300-some thousand. With the additional officers that they've received, that contract will go up. So I would just recommend allocating this to cover, a portion of that increase.
Well, I wanted to make a motion to, it's $1,460.
Mhm.
So I would like to make a motion to take the last bit of the American Rescue Plan and split it between Park and Rec and the library. So it would be $730 per budget.
It has to be used appropriately.
Yes,
as-
if the committee were to do that, I think there would need to be a specific,
Yeah. Okay.
Fund.
capital project or
I can't go for.
capital
outright.
Can't
expense
just give them money.
that ought to be allocated to. That you can't just add to the budget and spend it on, I don't know, pens or things like that.
No, but
Or
to
books.
park equipment and books. No,
I don't think park equipment would cover it, but there'd have to be a contract that we're approving today to obligate those funds. Part of the reason I recommended the body worn camera is that contract's already been approved
sense.
and allocated to.
Yeah. And we need it.
We're gonna pay that contract regardless of if these funds are allocated or not.
So the body cams,
Body cameras and tasers, correct. That lease agreement.
okay.
What do you need from us?
We need a motion.
Just a motion to allocate those funds to that
Need
contract.
to find the funds for that.
Yep.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, motion to, take the $1,460 of the ARPA funds and put it towards the body worn cameras. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll continue to report on the status of the ARPA funds. They all have to be spent by the end of 2026. So I'll continue
Right.
to update the committee.
Good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to new business. Item A, Pitney Bowes postage machine lease renewal.
That one
Pretty
will be
standard
me
one.
again. So the Village Hall, we have a Pitney Bowes postage machine here in that lease. I believe the last one was a 5-year lease, and that's due to expire in the middle of 2025. So Pitney Bowes reached out and asked if we'd like to renew that lease, and we would. So I attached that lease agreement to the packet. It is the same dollar amount as the last lease agreement. There's no change. We'll get a new machine, and we'll keep using it for postage.
All right, committee?
Question, is that the only machine? There are multiple, right?
I believe that's the only Pitney Bowes machine we have. It's
Oh.
just the one here at Village Hall.
I'll make a motion to approve the renewal of the lease as stated.
I'll second.
All right, a motion to approve the lease or to renew the lease as stated. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item B, contracts for general legal services and municipal court legal services. Administrator Krecklo, I believe, is taking those.
Yes, thank you. So earlier this year, at the direction of the village board, we issued an RFP for legal services. We drafted it. We ran the draft RFP past General Government and Finance Committee in September and incorporated your feedback into the final version that was distributed. I sent the RFP directly to 11 different law firms and then posted the RFP on the League of Municipalities classified section and on the village website. We received 5 proposals in response to the RFP from Axley Law Firm in Madison, Dempsey in Fond du Lac, Hausman Find, who's one of the one firm that we're recommending, Linder Marsek in Milwaukee, and then Wesolowski, Reidenbach, and Sadak, who are also recommending be awarded a portion of the contract. We had an evaluation team put together that included the village clerk, the finance director, the community development director, the director of public works, and myself. We rated all of the proposals based on general legal services experience, municipal court experience, general legal services cost, municipal court cost, and overall qualifications of the staff. And then we got together and put the scores in a spreadsheet. Based upon the results and then the discussion that we had following, what we found is that we're recommending that the village award a contract to Wesolowski, Reidenbach, and Sadak for general legal services, and to Hausman Find for municipal court services. And I'll talk a little bit more about the rationale for that. We decided to recommend separating those out. At this point, both of those contracts are under Wesolowski, Reidenbach, and Sadak. We thought that the Hausman Find proposal in that area was very strong. They provide municipal court services for many of the communities that are part of the Kettle Moraine municipal court system to which we belong. So they have a lot of experience in that area and familiarity with those court processes. We also felt that that would allow Wazalowski, Reidenbach, and Sadak to focus more strongly on the general legal services experience, since they do not have the number of attorneys that some of the other firms that submitted proposals have. So we're recommending splitting that into 2 contracts. I also should note, I did speak with representatives from both of those law firms, and both law firms feel very comfortable with that arrangement. They work together under a similar arrangement for the city of Mequon, and it seems to be working well there. I will note with some of the other firms, I'll give some rationale for why those firms were not selected. Linder Marsek is an excellent law firm. I worked for them in prior places that I've been in my career. However, the proposal that they submitted was focused primarily on human resources and employment law, which is not what the focus of what our RFP was. I think they may have sent it just to put themselves on our radar screen if we ever decide to, or when we decide to issue an RFP for those services, which are currently being provided to the village by Von Briesen. The other 2, Axley and Dempsey, both had solid experience in municipal areas, but their rates were significantly higher. Both of those law firms had rates of approximately $280, whereas Wazalowski, Reidenbach, and Sadak were approximately $200, so 40% higher for those 2 law firms. And I think the evaluation team felt that the proposals did not merit that much of a higher rate to be paid. So with that, I think I've covered all the general information. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And we also do have a representative here from Houseman Find if you do have any questions of them.
Just a question, Steve. So we see our attorney, of course, at our village board meetings and a few other meetings that we have. But in addition to that, there's quite a bit more that happens as far as contracts, real estate negotiations, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the village attorney, in addition to being in the meetings here, does have on-site hours every Thursday. It's a minimum of kind of 8 to 12 for those Thursday mornings. But typically, if there are more issues going on, we'll end up spending the entire day here. And that's something I think that's very helpful to staff to try to have that time when he's here in person and have that in-person interaction. And that is also something that not all of the proposals indicated would be a part of their regular operations. For example, Axley is located in Madison, and they talked about doing more of that work online or with video conferencing. And I think the team felt there's some advantages to having the attorney here in person for some of that time.
For that portion of the attorney's fees, how many hours approximately are billed weekly or monthly? I know it varies, but is there a average?
I'm looking to phone a friend with the finance director here.
I don't have an average. I can take a look real quick and just see what the last couple of months have been.
Just curious to see if it was 15 hours a week, 30 hours a week. I don't have a good feel for that.
One of the reasons I think it's it varies pretty significantly depending upon what issues are going on. There are times, like for example, during the time period leading up to the election in November, the village attorney was spending a lot more time working with the village clerk and her staff on election related issues. When there are key issues that the village board is looking at are changes to be made, like the noise ordinance. There are more hours that were involved when it's just standard day-to-day things, during, times when there's less on the village board agenda. It might be, half or a third the number of hours per month than you see during some of those busy times.
So another question trustee Kaminsky just asked about is the scoring system that you had. It varies quite a bit. How did you, what was the range on that score?
So it was, the scoring range was 1 to 5. And then we added them up. So what you see in the
Okay.
memo here is the total of the 5 evaluators and what those
Gotcha.
scores were.
Okay.
And
Background.
some of it got cut off here. It was, I didn't notice that until I saw this version of the packet. But if you scroll down into the attachments, you can see there's a total column on the far right of this table that got cut off on this version of it.
Committee, questions?
Um,
Trustee Kaminsky, well,
Go ahead.
she had asked one already and I jumped on it, so go ahead, Terry.
And to me, one of the most important things in the evaluation of this is to have somebody capable of being with us at our village board meetings and any other significant meeting. And if any of these could not do that, to me, they would immediately be out. And I don't know, it looked like they all were in their proposals suggesting, like you said, either a WebEx type thing or
Yeah.
phone a friend, but that type of thing doesn't work for us. And we went through this, 12 years ago, 10 years ago, and it was the same problem. And
Something like that.
we really do need to have that person in the room with us, whoever that person may be. So to me, that's like the most important part of this. I'm assuming they're all qualified or as municipal attorneys. So to me, it's how accessible they are and if they can attend each of these meetings and affordable after that as well.
Trustee Jan Miller, you have some questions?
Yes. So I wanted to find out who was on this committee. Steve, Jeff, Matthew, Matt, and what?
It was the
Donna.
Matthew, the finance director, Donna, the village clerk, Jeff Retzloff, the community development director, Matthew Mordwit, the director of public works, and myself. Actually, there was one other person that I had wanted to have on the committee, but there were some scheduling conflicts and he wasn't able to participate. And that's the police chief. But I selected those department heads to be on the evaluation team because they're the department heads that work most closely with the village attorney and have the most interaction.
Actually, I thought that perhaps one of the GGF committee members would have been on the selection committee. That's what I would have thought.
Well,
We did that for the website, just saying.
and that could have been a route. The couple of thoughts that I have in response to that is one, I see the purpose of the committee is to make a recommendation. And this is a second committee that now has, is going to make a recommendation to the village board. Generally, I think what you're looking for as elected officials, as policymakers, is recommendations from staff on these things. If you have the opportunity for your input at this point.
Just to add on to the hours, I just took the last 4 months and looked at just general municipal services, the average amount of hours, and I just moved it, was 48 hours a week roughly. Or I'm sorry, not a week, 48 hours a month. That'd been too much.
That's all
Sorry.
time.
Yep, 48, and that's just on the,
On the payroll.
that's
so,
just general municipal services. It doesn't include court or other activities.
right. We have representatives here from both Houseman Find and Attorney Sadak is here as well. So if you have any questions for them, we can bring them up.
I think that would be good.
If you have questions,
If you
go
have a
for it.
question.
Yeah.
Right. Sir, can
It's
you
a lot to
come
go
forward?
through.
Hi trustees, I'm attorney Jonathan Woodward with Houseman and Fines. I'm a Germantown homeowner, live just around the corner here, so
Great.
very close by. I have served as the municipal prosecutor for the city of West Bend for about 12 and a half years now. Village of Grafton for 18 plus, City of Cedarburg for 11 plus, City of Mequon for the past 2. I also have some smaller part-time departments in both Washington and Ozark County that I prosecute for. That would be Town of Trenton, Village of Newburgh, and Village of Fredonia over in Ozark County. Those are not full-time police departments. Those are part-time police departments. Our office also prosecutes for the Village of Thiensville. Another attorney in my office handles that so that I have someone else in the office familiar with prosecution work that can back me up as needed when I need backup coverage.
So obviously this will be additional workload for your firm.
Additional workload, but at the same time, looking at your citation numbers that the police department issues and the types of citations they issue, I think it slots in pretty well with those other communities. Again, all of those other communities are members of the Mid-Moraine Municipal Court. So really the process is exactly the same. It's the same judge. The court clerk that is assigned to Germantown matters is also my court clerk for Cedarburg and Grafton matters. So I'm really working with the same people, the same judge. The processes are the same. So sort of the incremental workload really isn't all that extreme from my perspective. Again, I see myself as sort of a team partner of your police department. 99% of the municipal prosecution work is working alongside the police department. Again, those are going to be your traffic citations, first offense drunk driving being the most serious of those. Municipal ordinance citations for things like retail theft, disorderly conduct, and then the citations that arise from the school setting, your school officers, particularly truancy matters. So again, I see this as a real seamless transition. I always see myself as a team partner with law enforcement with that, and always want to make sure that officers and command staff know that they can reach out to me really anytime, day or night with questions. I emphasize that a lot of the times it's easier to talk something through with an officer, even if it's at, midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning while they're out investigating an OWI crash or something like that. I'd rather fix something or answer questions on the front end than spend 6 months arguing about it in court after the fact. And certainly, I think if you talk to any of the police chiefs or even the rank and file troops that I work with, you'd hear nothing but good things, if I can toot my own horn just a little bit. So, and certainly both in West Bend and in Mequon, West Bend is not with Attorney Sadak. They have a different general city attorney in the city of West Bend. City of Mequon, same thing. Again, the prosecution and the general legal services are separate. Really 99% of the time, they're just two totally different things. I'm really working strictly with law enforcement, the police department. The general city attorney is working with all those other departments on things that don't involve prosecution. So separating them out, in my experience, has not really been any sort of an issue at all. And for those rare occasions where there is some overlap, I work well with Attorney Proust up in West Bend. I work well with Attorney Sadak over in Mequon. So again, I don't see that as a significant issue. It's very specialized work, having to focus on the traffic and ordinance enforcement. So having someone that really specializes in that is important. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, any other questions?
Yes. So in all these municipalities that you stated, West Bend, Grafton, Cedarburg, I don't know what I wrote, Thiensville, Mequon,
Everywhere.
everywhere, it's specifically the law enforcement that you're handling?
Yeah, there are some of those communities where our firm also does the general legal services.
Okay,
So
so your firm can do general legal services?
We can. So for example, I'm the village attorney for the Village of Fredonia in Ozark County, the
Mhm.
town attorney for the town of Saukville in Ozark County. Other attorneys in our office Mike Herbrand is the city attorney for City of Cedarburg, village attorney for Village of Grafton. We only bid on the municipal court prosecution services. We feel that we're sort of at our capacity in terms of providing those broader legal services. So we would not feel comfortable bidding on the whole enchilada, if you will, at this time. And certainly my particular focus is more on the prosecution and litigation side than real estate deals, TIFs, things like that. I hand those off to other folks because that's
Okay.
really outside my wheelhouse. Give me a drunk driving case and I'm your guy.
All over it. Okay. Great. Well, it sounds like you've got a lot of experience and you're in the, this is your wheelhouse, so.
It is.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Trustee Kaminsky, anything?
I admire your confidence. I really think it really comes out. It's really nice. You're going to find we're pretty well behaved here in Germantown, so I hope we don't bore you too much.
No, I mean, I talked to the municipal court clerks. I know that your police department issues a fair amount of retail theft citations,
Well, that
both
we have.
coming out of Walmart and Fleet Farm. I'm pretty strict on those. Most of my communities, if I take over someone else, the officers end up going to trial more often just because sometimes I'm a little bit more firm on some things and we end up going to court more, but I think that's a good thing.
Mhm. And do you have contracts with all of your municipalities that you service?
I believe there may be one or two of them where we're actually past our contract
But
period and we haven't renewed, but yes,
Typically you have contracts.
yes.
Great. Ask the question.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Attorney Sadak? We know Brian already, so.
Certainly, I would hope after 13 years that I'm kind of a known entity at this point. Just at least in terms of the municipal court services, I'll just echo everything that Jonathan just said. He took over about 2 years ago in Mequon, and we've had other folks that had been doing it in the meantime as well. Relationship with Jonathan has been great. I know most of the people in his firm. They're all good attorneys as well. And they've got the bandwidth and the capacity and capabilities to handle the municipal court services very well. And looking forward to working more with him here on those things that kind of intertwine that happens from time to time. So, but beyond that, the proposal is what it is. Obviously, it's a fairly significant increase in our existing rates. As I've kind of all along said, one of our goals as a firm is that, we recognize that taxpayer dollars are important. They're limited, and as a result, we do try to be on that lower end of kind of where the market is otherwise. Unfortunately, the market has accelerated much more rapidly than what we were at. And in fact, looking at some of the proposals that you received as part of this, talking with some of my colleagues in other places that are also seeing RFPs go through, it's accelerated even more since this summer when I kind of did an informal survey and just kind of said, hey, where is everybody at? So, we continue to be at that low end, recognizing that it's that, but obviously it's in no way a reflection of the quality of services and our abilities that we provide. It's just a choice that we make that we need to be mindful of those taxpayer dollars, and that's kind of the priority. So,
Great, thanks. I'd love to take credit for this, but Trustee Kaminsky just asked. So, what's the terms of the contract?
This is, under this contract, we would not necessarily set a length of the contract. We would have similar to what the agreement is we currently have in place with Wazalowski, Reidenbach, and Sadak, which is for an hourly rate on an annually renewed basis.
Gotcha.
I like the idea of annual review. It's kind of controversial, as you've probably heard through the grapevine. You've been our attorney for so long, and that sometimes really works against you. I've been in that situation with clients myself in the past. People like you for so long, and all of a sudden it's like, why do we like this person so much? It's been 12 years. And then you got to try to, prove once again who you are. I personally do not have any problem with you being our attorney. I do like the idea of not having a contract because I think that serves people who, one of the questions was, we don't like the deal that happened downtown with the purchase. Well, that's not you, that's us. You know, if somebody doesn't like something that happens in this village, we are the people making those decisions. And we have to stand by them, and there's a reason we made them. And I stand by our decisions we made in that. And, you know, it's not your fault, as people would like to try to point out. So, I mean, looking at this rationally and logically, and knowing we don't have a contract, and if all of a sudden the wheels come off the cart a year from now, which I'm assuming they won't, but if they did, we have that out. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, in my opinion. Obviously, I understand that rates have to go up, and you're still right there in the ballpark with everybody. So, I mean, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So I personally do not have a problem with the arrangement that's recommended, which I also appreciate, committee recommendation. It's not just me, it's not just you, because we're probably on different sides of the fence on this, but it's actually the committee that has to work with this gentleman making these decisions. And I like that. And I respect that. And I respect what our staff has done, and I totally support it.
In reviewing this myself, I think the one takeaway that I had is that it's kind of a logical split between the two firms. I think that makes sense for several different reasons. You being able to, help with our municipal type fees, and then you being able to help with the courts. It makes sense to do that and split that off instead of having one firm try to do all of it. I think that's probably better. I like that idea. So, Jan, do you have any comments?
I do have a comment or two. I'm really, I don't approve of hiring legal services without a contract. As a matter of fact, it's quite controversial. If you sign a legal document on the behalf of the village of Germantown, I may have voted on it. And what is my liability then? Because we've already tried to look at your contract. There is no contract. So could someone, whatever we made a contract with, real estate, the relationship, the MOU with Richfield, all these things, these are big things, and they're not to be taken lightly. And we as a village board, I'll only speak for myself, I don't take things lightly. I try to do all my homework. And I think that what we need to do is to have a contract, albeit a year. My personal preference would be get one legal service that could do all of it. That would one-stop shop. That's what it was. And now we're going to split it apart. I don't have a problem with that, but uncontracted makes me crazy. It scares me, quite frankly. The other thing is, I asked the village administrator and the clerk to provide your code of ethics, signed code of ethics. I thought that all of our contractors had to sign one. There wasn't one. These are legal documents that I would think you, being a business owner, would want to have so that you know that you have this business and that you can assure anybody that's on the board, anyone that you contact, all the directors, anybody, that you take it seriously. The other thing that's on our agenda tonight is the 4th of July. I mean, to some people, it's not a big deal, but to me it is. And I was on the committee. We reached out to your firm. We were looking for a 501c3 and we never received it. So these are, if you I think these are very important things. These are tasks that you're asked to do. It's to protect you and to protect the village. So I would send this back to the board, whoever made this up, the Matt, the Jeff, the Steve, Donna. They're great people and they can make decisions like this and they're rated. But why don't we get a choice? We've been given a choice. We're going to go ahead and split it. Why not look for somebody that can do it all?
Well,
Because
I'm gonna
it's-
let Brian respond first.
Yeah.
So certainly a couple of things there, trustee Miller. First, contract, if you want a contract, I'm happy to do a contract. Under the state bar rules that govern our relationship, the only thing that I need to provide is what we call a retainer document. That document can look just like we have in front of you. It has to cover the scope of our services and the amount that we're going to charge you. That's all under the state bar's rules that I need to provide in order to be a representative of the village. With that said, if you want a formal contract, whether it's 1 year or multiple years or whatever, I'm fine with that. I have a contract in Mequon. I don't have any problems with that. And if that's the route that the board wants to go, I'm happy to do it. As it relates to the oath of office and the ethics certification, I don't know what the answer is. What I do know is that when I started 13 years ago, my first question was, in fact, I think it was even at that first meeting that I had when I came in and did my typical Thursday office hours was, I need to execute these documents. Madam Clerk, where are they? You know, what do I need to do? And, oh, we never have the attorney do that. And I said, no, we need to do this because that's what the code says. And so we ended up printing them and I signed them. Now, what happened to them after that? I can't answer that. I'm not here in the in the building at all times. And certainly maybe lesson learned. And one of the things certainly as part of this process that Administrator Krecklow and I have talked about is that we'll execute a new one as part of this, just as Attorney Woodward would be expected to execute as part of his role as well. I'll probably take a copy for myself so that I know that I've got it instead of relying on the clerk's office, which in fairness, I should do. Yeah, I mean, clerk's office should not have misplaced that, but it sounds like maybe there were some others that were misplaced as well. There was a third point I was going to make, and the third point I was going to make is and certainly if this body desires that you want a one-shop, type situation, recognize that that's what we've been providing. Our proposal included that. That's certainly an option that exists as well. If you're not comfortable with a split, we're happy to continue to do the work. It just was the recommendation of the committee. And, because I work with Jonathan and I know that he does good work on municipal court work, I don't have a particular problem with that split as a result of that. But if you really want one shop that's doing it, we're happy to continue to provide that service. But certainly, looking back in history, our original proposal didn't include municipal court services. When I started 13 years ago, the existing attorney, his son, continued to do municipal court services for a period of time. And then that ended for various reasons. And then we took over at that point. So it's not something that we specifically try to focus on. It's something that we're capable of doing, that we handle. But there are others that are better suited to handle it. Just like with labor, we can do labor. I've done labor in some circumstances, but there are other people who are better at doing labor than I am. Because that's what they do day in and day out. And so if the board says, hey, we'd like to split this as a result of economies of scale and looking at, who's going to be the best fit, that's certainly fine. I don't have any problems with that. It makes a lot of sense because you have to rely on those specialists where you can. So,
You want to make any comments about the Celebrate Germantown committee? I mean, we're going to have that tonight at Village Board, but it's relevant here, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the only comment that I would have is that, you know, at least from my end, I made the mistake of assigning it to an associate who didn't carry the ball all the way through. Now, ultimately, that does come on my desk. It's my responsibility. But that is the, you know, the fact of the matter is that there was, you know, miscommunications in terms of what needed to be done. And it didn't get done. And we're in the process of correcting that, but it's a time-consuming process through the IRS, and so we're getting there. But
Okay, thanks. Trustee Jan Miller, you got anything else?
So I thought we were going to have an opportunity to see these 5. That I don't know why, but that's what I thought, that we would see the 5 different law firms and be able to talk to them. And then, Finance Director, what is the percent of increase going forward for Attorney Sajic's firm?
I did not do the math on the percent increase, but I can do it real quick.
And if I may,
Current rate,
You have a-
Brian,
120.
120?
I don't.
67%.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Math guy down there.
and if I could just add to the, just a comment, please. And Trustee Jan Miller, you did request to have the ethics acknowledgement. The oath of office, when I started here in 2023, I did have our attorney do an oath of office, and that is available for your viewing in my office. It was the ethics acknowledgement that I was unable to locate because I wasn't here those years ago, and where that might be was, it could have been over in the storage building. But if you would like to take a look at his oath of office, he was administered by me, an oath, when I started here in 2023, that I'm happy to provide to you.
Sure. If you could forward that to me, that would be great. So 67% increase. Thanks for doing the math.
This would be a recommendation by the committee to go to the Village Board. We're going to have another shot at this. There's going to be more discussion at the Village Board if we move this forward. We are going to move it forward. It's just a matter of, is it going to be a positive recommendation or not? As long as we have a motion tonight.
As it is written, what is it written as?
The recommendation is to approve a motion recommending that the Village Board approve the contract with Wesolowski, Riedenbach, and Sadak for the general legal services to be compensated according to the rate schedule included in the packet, and the contract for municipal court services to Hausman Find according to the rate schedule included in the packet.
I will make that motion.
Right, I'll second. Any further discussion? Like I said, this is going to Village Board. We're going to have more discussion there, and we'll decide what they want to do. As far as the process, you know, I've been on some committees in the past as a trustee that I regret doing now. I think that staff and sending forward a recommendation is a better way to do it. I'd like optimism. I would like somebody to look at it that's dealing with it every day. I think that paring it down to a recommended proposal is the way to do it. And also, you have provided us with all the different proposals that were there, but that was your recommendation going forward. Now, we can decide to do it or not to do it, and I still feel that that's the full Village Board, and that's where the big discussion is going to happen. So that's my comments. Any further discussion?
No.
If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion goes to Village Board 2-1 in favor. All right, thank you for all that. That's good conversation. Sorry about that. I got to get back to my agenda. Okay, I think we can get through these pretty quick. These are pretty standard ones. Item C, transplant contract renewal with Optum Rx. This is a renewal of our current contract, correct?
Correct. This is, one of our stop loss policies, and this one is specifically related to potential transplants. The annual cost is $16,947.
All right, committee?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion to accept the renewal of the transplant contract. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the renewal of Vermont Systems contract, and this has to do with the Park and Rec Department, correct?
Yeah, this is the RecTrack system, and again, it's a renewal for 2025 for our system where folks go online to enroll in classes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a question.
All right, question, trustee Kaminsky.
How long have we had
Go ahead.
how long have we had RecTrack?
To my knowledge, it's been at least 10 years
Okay, and it works.
and it works.
Yes,
It's
everybody's
part of
familiar
our
with it?
accounting.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
I've heard very positive things from the community as well, so I think it is a good system. Anything else? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Gil. Items E, revisions to the 2025-2026 contract for Safe Built Inspection Services. We got the whole staff here tonight. This is,
Kind of
We're
exciting.
popular.
As discussed at the budget process for 2025, we've been negotiating with Safe Built and have come to terms for a new contract. One of those terms was to have rather just an annual contract, a 2-year contract. Although I should point out that this contract, like previous ones, does contain a 90-day termination without cause provision. So if we're unhappy after 90 days, we can get out. And they can too. More importantly, though, the other 2 terms that we've negotiated for 2025 is to adjust the fee split percentage. Currently, it's 55, 45, 55 in favor of Safe Built, 45 for the village. Going forward, the fee split would be 50-50. So we've come down from, originally it was 62-38 to 55-45, and now it's 50-50. And in exchange for that, so to speak, we've agreed as part of this contract to increase our fees tied to the consumer price index. So the fees would automatically adjust. We'd bring a fee schedule to you each year, but they would automatically adjust according to the latest 12-month CPI. And for example, for 2025, that's 2.7%.
Okay.
And that's what's reflected in the updated fee schedule, the next item on the agenda.
all right, committee, trustee Jan Miller.
Can we ask some questions?
If we were doing this
Yep, cool.
correctly.
Okay. Jeff, the new proposal is for a 50-50 split. One of the items, who prepared the contract for you?
Safe Built did. They provided the
It's
contract.
their contract. Thank you. One of the things I have difficulty with is item 16 in the contract, ownership of documents. If I'm reading this correctly,
What page were you at?
okay, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
117 of 459. It says, if I'm reading this right, it says that they keep all of the records and then we have to ask for them back. All records, documents, notes, and other materials maintained or stored at the consultant's secure proprietary software pertaining to the municipality will be exported into the CSV file and become the property of the municipality.
Yes.
We own it.
We do that. We use what they call Community Core. It's a full service database system, permit tracking. It inputs the permit applications. It keeps track of payment, inspections conducted, and so on.
Document storage as well.
Document storage, although we do continue to maintain our hard copy file system in the inspection services area in Village Hall, where we print out copies of the pertinent information for building permits, for example, include that in the file. But there is digital information as well that they maintain as part of the Community Core system that we have access to.
You do have access.
Oh, yes.
Right. But it sounds like they're in control of it.
They manage it for us.
Okay. Well, I had a problem with that. Anyway, why wouldn't we want 51% ownership? I mean, 50% means it's half and half. 51% of the contract means that, you know,
It's not an ownership thing.
This is an
Yes.
ownership thing.
it's a consultant, but
It's
it's
Oh, it's just a
financial agreement, that's all it is.
yeah,
It's a financial.
split of the fees.
right. So
Going
still
forward,
asking
we'll
the
continue,
question.
Compared to what we
we'll
have.
continue to work on that.
Direction here.
I have some ideas for the next time around, but I won't reveal that at this point. But yes, the goal is to try and continually to get a greater share of the permit fee revenue,
Which you've been doing.
which
Yeah.
we've been consistently doing.
And do we charge them for rental space?
No, we do not. One of the terms of the agreement is that we provide them space to do their work. They have access to our printers, copy machines for that matter. They do, however, have their own cell and mobile phones that they have access to and they maintain. They actually have brought in over time since fall of 2020 when they first started working for us, brought in some of their own computer hardware equipment to use, laptops and the like. But we have, as part of the agreement, we provide some of those items, and including the space, yes.
So is the contract for 1 year only?
As spelled out in the first page, actually page 114 of 459, at the top, number 5, the term, this agreement shall be effective on January 1, 2025. The term of the agreement shall be 24 months from January 1, 2025 through December 31, 2026. However, as I pointed out, item number 6, the termination provision, either party may terminate this agreement or any part of this agreement upon 90 days written notice, with or without cause, and with no penalty or additional cost beyond the rate stated in the agreement. So it's, is it a 2-year contract? Yes, it's a gentleman's agreement. We're going to do this for 2 years under these terms. And if something comes up in the meantime, we can jump out.
So my question is, if this is a contract for 2 years, can we change the percentage at all during that time?
We could give them 90 days and say we want to renegotiate the percentage and give them reason why. Yes, we could do that.
And has our attorney reviewed this contract?
Yes.
And they were all right with that?
Yes.
And what would you say, what did you say on the permit fee schedule inspection services? The increase was about 2% or
0.7%
2%?
is the
Okay.
current CPI-U ending on November 30th, 2020.
Whatever it is in 2025,
Yeah, it'll boost up. Yeah.
We
And
asked
so
them
on
about
that,
that, and they said they didn't feel that the difference between the end of November and the end of December would be so great that it would matter to them. So they
okay,
wanted to get this in place. We want to get it in place, so we went with
Sure.
the 12 months ending in November.
okay. And that is an annual contract, right? The fees can go up every year as well?
We're in control of the fee schedule, although we are agreeing to adjust it annually
Yes.
and automatically according to the CPI.
Okay,
So tonight, the second item on the agenda after this is
is that,
that fee schedule that generally shows an increase of all the fees of 2.7% rounded to the nearest penny.
gotcha. Okay.
Great,
That answers
anything
my
else?
questions, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Safe Built Inspection as designated in our handout here.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the contract as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, 2025 permit fee schedule inspection services, corrected attachment.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the fee schedule as per presented by,
2.7.
yes. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Great, thank you. We'll move on to reports. Accounts payable. Anything, Matthew,
May I-
that you want?
May I make a recommendation?
Mhm.
Could we move up in the essence of time, move up the contracts and the director's report before these other
Yeah,
reports?
I don't even think we need a
We need
motion for
to.
that, not for reports. So let's go right to
Is that okay?
contracts.
Appreciate it. I think they're more important. And of course, Matthew's report.
Are there any
Um,
questions on contracts?
Yes, I just wanted to verify. I put this in alpha order, just to goof you up.
all right.
Um, appraisal consultants, do we have a annual contract plus the interim market analysis?
So this year there was 2 contracts. We do have an annual contract with Associated Appraisals, and then in January or February of 2024, the village board approved the interim market update. So that contract is completed and it will not show up in the 2025 contracts report.
Okay, cool. So it'll only be one.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And then the Axion, we just talked about that. We've got 2. We've got one for the fleet camera and the body camera. And then I see there's 2 for Copeland, but there isn't anything, there's no name, there's no explanation for one of these.
We can add a description to that. So typically the description in the 4th column is hand entered just to give an idea of what it is. We can get a
Okay.
description added.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
Mhm.
And
I can,
last page.
excuse me, I can just interject and say that is for phase 2 of their contract for development consulting services.
Nope, that's what it says for the second item.
Then that is phase 5. I apologize.
5.
Yeah, that was approved by the village board at a recent meeting.
All right. And is the wellness program, is that part of our insurance, our basic insurance, or is that an add-on? That,
It is a different vendor from our healthcare administrator, but it is part of the same program.
okay, and then we have a USI Insurance Services. It says benefit broker. Do we use a broker?
Yep.
Or-
So I don't recall when that was approved, but at a GGF meeting a few months ago.
Yeah. that was just
Okay,
that was
that's,
approved.
we had the new one,
Mhm.
right? Okay, and I'm, Vinton Construction, was that the work that on Donges Bay that was for around the DPW area? Vinton, Vinton.
Yes.
Okay. And Wolf Paving, does that include everything that Wolf is doing for us?
Let me pull it up.
It's 1.7 million something.
Yep, that is part of the annual road paving project.
Okay. Thank you. And I'd like to move to go to the director's report.
Sure. Anything else on contracts?
No, what we're looking to do in 2025 is create some additional columns that kind of, showcase what kind of contract is it? Is it a lease? Is it a construction contract? Is it a contract for professional services? And then also include renewal dates and things like that.
Yeah, and then there was a code that there's posted, there were 3.
Yeah, that's a column I could get rid of. Essentially, it just tells you the status of the contract within Munis. So if it's released, that means it's waiting for approval. If it's approved, it's been approved. And if it's posted, that means I posted it to be used. I could get rid of that column. It doesn't add that much value. But
Well, does it mean one is active, one's completed, can you use those words?
for those ones, none of them being completed. If it's completed, it'll say closed. And
Closed, got it. Okay, thanks.
Good.
All right, thank
Anything
you.
else? Then we'll move on to director's report.
I just wanted to provide kind of a quick summary of some of the things that the finance department did in 2024 and some of the current activities that we're currently working on here at Village Hall. So in 2024, really towards the end of 23, but throughout 24, is we completed the implementation of Munis. We completed the financial aspect late 23 and the payroll aspect in 2024. So that was a big undertaking that the finance department was able to achieve this year. In addition, we improved some of our financial reporting. We're looking to improve upon that again this year, but just kind of comparing where it had been the last couple of years compared to where it was in 2023. So I want to highlight some of the accomplishments that my staff did. A lot of the credit goes to them and their expertise in that area. What we're currently working on here at Village Hall is, as many people know, it's tax collection season. So we are getting a steady influx of folks coming to pay their property taxes. They can pay them 8 a.m. to 4:30 Monday through Friday, and we'll take them here at Village Hall or online, or online. In addition, quarterly utility bills will be going out at the end of the month. Following the approval or the sending out of those bills, we'll be increasing the rates to reflect the PSC approval as well as the village board approval for the sewer rates. I also highlighted some important dates coming up in 2025, specifically as relates to some of the audit and state reports and their due dates. So as always, I just appreciate your guys' guidance and support. I'm going to be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
So do you have an appointment with Baker Tilly?
You have an appointment with them? March 31st?
Correct. They'll be doing their on-site work that week, which will be a combination of on-site and remote. Last year is mostly remote, which worked out really well, but oftentimes they do come on-site and take up conference room A and do work there.
And then you've implemented all of their suggestions from the audit.
Yep. There's still,
Will you handle
I was speaking with the
elections?
auditor and things like that. Many of those have been removed for 2024. A couple will remain on as we didn't implement them, January 1st of 2024, but, in the summer. But we expect a lot of those to fall off in the 2024 audit.
Okay.
So.
Great.
All right, anything else? Matthew, I just want to say thank you to all the finance department, especially you. When I think of where we were 4 years ago and where we are now, it's a quantum leap. And especially implementing a new software package is very difficult to do. And I want to thank you and your staff for that.
I appreciate that, and I'll be sure to pass it along. They've done a good job, and they're very supportive and are good at what they do.
Great, thanks. Anybody want to go through another report? If not, we'll just bypass that. You can email your questions if you have any. All right.
No, thank you.
All right, great. With that, we are through all our agenda items and we will adjourn at 7:05 p.m. Give us 5 minutes to set up for the village board meeting. Thank you.